Drive Home with Maggie and Perloff. Afternoons 3 to 6 on WSKO Syracuse, a Cumulus media station. The voice of the Central New York sports fan, The Score, 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Little different show for you today. Going old school. It's just me. There's no Josh, there's no Braylon. Neither of them could make it today. They had prior commitments. So it's just me in the studio here at the Score 1260 today. But that doesn't mean I have to be the only one talking. We've got open phone lines the entirety of the show, 315-671-1260 if you want to chime in. That's 315-671-1260. Feel free to call in during the breaks. I don't have anyone to vamp while I'm answering the phone on air, so make a call during a break, and we'll get you on the air, talk about whatever it is you might want to talk about if you don't have time to call in, but you still want to chat with me. Make sure to hop into our Twitch or YouTube streams. That's twitch.tv/marker_box, same as my Twitter handle if you follow me on Twitter, or the Score 1260 YouTube channel. You'll see behind the scenes here in the Score 1260. Got a camera set up. You can see my ugly mug on there over the course of the entire show, and you'll even get to chat with me during breaks. You won't hear the same breaks that go over the traditional radio air. So it's a good behind-the-scenes look if you want to talk to me through there. That's twitch.tv/marker_box or the Score 1260 YouTube channel. A lot of things to talk about today. We're going to talk some Syracuse men's and women's basketball. Syracuse women's basketball team doing some incredible things over the course of the past week. We had a 19-point comeback for a win against Clemson, then an 18-point comeback against 15th-ranked Florida State at the Dome for probably the biggest win of Syracuse's season so far. They're 15-2. This is a team that, as of right now, is going to be highly ranked nationally and should be primed for a deep run in the NCAA tournament. On the men's side, coming off a really good win against Pitt the other night, 81-73. Or I'm sorry, 69-58. 81-73 was the score of the first one. 69-58. So really solid win at Pitt. They've got a game at 12 o'clock today at the JMA Wireless Dome against Miami, the U, coming to the Dome. We do have some big news regarding Miami that I'll get to when we break down that game. So Syracuse men's and women's basketball on the docket. Want to go through some of the standings and other things going on in the world of high school basketball in this area. Obviously, we like to talk about high school sports on this show, and we'll talk about the Bills. They've got a big game this weekend, obviously, playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC playoffs. So, big sports weekend. And like I said, phone lines open the entirety of the show. We'll talk about whatever it is you might want to talk about. Jim says, who isn't playing for Miami? Well, I'll just get into that right now, Jim, because it's big. Their center, Norchid Omir, is out. This is from Mike Waters, who's at the JMA Wireless Dome. He's currently sitting on the Miami bench during the team's warm-ups, not in uniform. So looks like he's in street clothes. He's going to be out for Miami. Norchid Omir. That's a big loss for the Hurricanes. And with Syracuse, they've obviously had some struggles at center recently. Naheem McLeod out for the year. That's official now. And Malik Brown's been great. Nothing against Malik Brown. He's been fantastic. But when he's not on the court, we've seen a lot of Peter Carey. I'd like to see some more Munir Hema at some point. There's been talk of maybe Benny Williams becoming that backup center, go with a full small ball lineup. Something it would probably look like Mintz, Starling, Copeland, Bell, and/or Taylor, and Benny, which I don't hate that lineup. I think that's a lineup we brought up on this show previously. If you want to throw one of them at the 5, either Bell or Benny. Benny, probably the better rebounder of the two. But that could be something we see Syracuse do today with Miami missing their big center. SU is a 1-point favorite. Not saying go out of your way. Oh, and it's already moved to 3. See, Jim, that's why I tagged you in a tweet. I said get the -1 in while you can, because it's going to move. It's SU -3 now. It's just how the odds work, man. Once that player goes out, it's going to move quick. And it seems like a lot of money going on Syracuse for their 12 o'clock tilt at the JMA Wireless Dome today. I do want to bring up our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company to kick off the show, because I had a wonderful night last night. Me and the lady friend stopped out to Myers Creek Cazenovia. They were having a Great Gatsby-esque style party in the cellar in Myers Creek. It was a speakeasy event. You needed a password to get in. And it was fantastic. We, had some great beer as always. I made sure to consume a couple of Velvet Fogs. But then, in something different for Myers Creek, it was actually not, it was hosted by Myers Creek, but it was actually run by, he's called the Bourbon Bender. And yes, Pat, no Josh today. He had a prior commitment, an engagement party for a friend of ours that he's going to. So, no Josh, it's just me today, Pat. But the Bourbon Bender put on, Pat says at least this stream is better on the eyes. I disagree. Because now you're just seeing my face, and it's like focused on my face, and it's quite strange. But anyway, the Bourbon Bender put on a wonderful event, made some wonderful cocktails in the cellar at Myers Creek Cazenovia last night. And, it's one of those things, it's a Great Gatsby themed party. Like I said, it was password only. So you got to dress to the nines. So I threw on nice black suit, bow tie. The lady had on a beautiful, beautiful dress. And the two of us went out there, had ourselves a wonderful time. Delicious beer as always. I will say nothing bad about the beer at Myers Creek. It is my favorite around here and some of the best beer you'll ever drink. And like I said, I consumed a couple of Velvet Fogs last night before switching to the cocktails that the Bourbon Bender was making. We had a fantastic evening. So if you want more events like that you can possibly attend, I would have liked to see more people there. I'm going to be honest. It was a good crowd, don't get me wrong, but I would have liked to see more people. There were a lot of people upstairs, but this place knows how to throw an event. I've been to multiple. They know how to throw an event. And yeah, it was cold. It was snowy. It's a drive out to Cazenovia. I don't want to hear it. Great place, the Palace out in Cazenovia. But if you can't make it out there, you can go to the Inner Harbor location as well. I was just there Wednesday night for trivia. Bedrock Construction coming out on top this week, baby. Big win for the trivia team this week. Secured that $50 Myers Creek gift card, which will be used this coming week to purchase some lovely beverages. Maybe a Velvet Fog, maybe just a bit outside, maybe a floating on by. Their traditional Pilsner, all delicious. And you should check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar and beer of Outside the Box Score. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break here on Outside the Box Score. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score. Listen, Jim, say what you want about Josh. The guy is committed. I will say that. Camera a little bit. There we go. Josh is committed. I had a prior commitments, as did Braylon, and I totally understand. Josh back in Rochester this weekend. Normally he comes in from Rome, but in Rochester this weekend for our buddy Burb's engagement party. So, which I didn't know engagement parties were a thing. I don't think Josh did either. He'll be back next week. Will Josh be in Buffalo shoveling after the party? I doubt it. He wants nothing to do. I mean, Josh is the number one Bills hater. We're it's been said on the show multiple times. He doesn't want them to. He doesn't want those fans to have good conditions. What's the And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. Fully packed show today, fully packed solo show. No Josh, no Braylon today. We do have Jim and Pat, some people talking in the chat. If you want to chime in, phone lines are open the entirety of the show. 315 671 1260. That's 315 671 1260. Call during the breaks, and we'll get you on air, talk about whatever it is you might want to talk about. Interesting question from Jim in the chat here, and we'll get into the Bills talk here quickly. He says, is the amount of pressure on Josh Allen to win being downplayed? No, I don't think it is. I think there is a lot of pressure out there from media, both local and national in general, on Josh Allen to win this game because finally, after these battles that the Chiefs and Bills have had in recent years, Buffalo gets them in their building. They're coming to Highmark. They're coming to Western New York in the middle of January to play a snow game against the Bills. This is finally what Bills fans have been waiting for. It should be said. Josh Allen has struggled to beat Patrick Mahomes on the road in the playoffs. Has it always been his fault? Absolutely not. He's been let down by the defense. He's been let down by 13 seconds. There's a lot of things that go into this rivalry that is Allen versus Mahomes. But I think there is ample pressure on Josh Allen from the fan base, from the media, from a lot of different outlets. And Jim says, what will be the excuse if the Bills lose? Refs, snow. They'll never put it on the snow. You can't blame Buffalo losing at home in January on the snow. That's what happens. You play in Buffalo, New York, in an open-air stadium. It's going to be a snow game when you get to this point in the season. I wouldn't have it any other way. People are saying, why don't they build a dome in Buffalo? Bring me as many Buffalo snow games as you can. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. Love a good weather game. And here we go, Jim. On ESPN right now, they're talking about Allen versus Mahomes. It's getting a lot of pub. There's a lot of pressure on Josh Allen. There's a lot of pressure on the Bills, even though in these recent matchups, I think this might be the weakest Bills team. It is the weakest Chiefs team. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but I think this might be the weakest the Bills have been going into this game as well. Bills obviously did what they had to do at the end of the season, lock up that division. They played great down the stretch. And Allen and the team in general were on a mission against the Steelers this past week. It's going to be a fun one. It's always a fun one. And we'll see what happens over the course of the game. Personally, I think this Chiefs team is very gettable. And I think they wanted nothing to do with playing Buffalo on the road on January 20th. Bills are playing well. The Chiefs, not so much. It's hard for me to bet against Patrick Mahomes. It's very hard for me to bet against Patrick Mahomes. The guy is incredible. But who's he throwing the ball to outside of Travis Kelce? We know what Kelce can do. We know that Travis Kelce is really good at this whole football thing. But when you can entirely focus on him on the offensive side of the ball, he's the only worry you have. It's a moot point how good he is. We've seen it multiple times this year. They don't have anyone else to throw to. The rest of those receivers are really not what Mahomes is used to. It's not what any quarterback should have to be used to. There really aren't good receivers on that team. So if the Buffalo secondary can focus on Travis Kelce, just hone in on him, make sure he does not beat you, then yeah, I like the Bills this week. I like the Bills quite a bit this week if they can get that one thing down. And we've seen Kelce burn him in the past. I think this is going to be, I don't want to say a drubbing, but I could see the Bills winning this one fairly big. I'm high on the Bills this week. Will Taylor Swift be a distraction for Bills fans? No, I think they're going to want to throw her in the pit, though. I don't know if anyone's seen this on social media, but they're working on the new stadium out there in Buffalo, and right now it's just a pit. And apparently a couple of Bills fans have sacrificed themselves to the pit. They're fine. They ended up going to the hospital. They lived. They're fine. But in order for the Bills to win, they jumped into the pit. Nothing more than like a broken bone or anything. They're all fine. But I think they want to sacrifice Taylor Swift to the pit because Bills fans are wild. I don't think Taylor Swift will be a distraction. I think they welcome it in Buffalo. They welcome anything that they can chirp the Chiefs about, and that's another one. Used to be just Mahomes' family, and his brother and wife and stuff like that. That was the main chirp from Bills fans. Now they have Taylor Swift to use as ammunition. Bills fans will have an absolute ball with T Swizzle being at Highmark Stadium this weekend. And I do want to bring up, while we're talking a little bit about the NFL, I want to bring up a couple things quickly. One, my Philadelphia Eagles laid an absolute egg against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past week, and I was very upset. My team looked terrible. But those Bucs are now going on to face the Detroit Lions, who, outside of the Bills, I'm now heavily rooting for the Lions. And I want to congratulate my good friend, coworker here at the Score 1260, broadcaster for the Syracuse Mets, Evan Stockton, who went on the Man-Child show with Boy Green earlier this week and gave a hilarious interview, as he always does. He, big Detroit Lions fan. I want to congratulate him personally on his team finally not only getting the home playoff game, which was huge, but winning against their former quarterback in their building in the playoffs. It was a sight to behold what was going on in Detroit last week. And I'm all in on these Lions, man. I love them. Love the way they play. So many talented players. I mean, Jared Goff has been a revelation. I always thought he was pretty good. But what he's done there has been fantastic. And then you throw in Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and all the weapons that this team has on offense. It's a lot of fun what's going on in Detroit. Last NFL thing, just because Jim has a question. Worst coaching move by not changing Dallas or Philly? Dallas. Philly at least can say that they went to a Super Bowl under Nick Sirianni. Now, I was feeling quite reactionary after the Eagles lost to Tampa Bay. I'll pull up the text I sent. I'm in a group chat with both the Man-Child and Boy Green, and I will pull up the text I sent after the game ended. Let it be known I want the entire coaching staff fired, Slay and Bradbury released, corner safeties taken with every pick in the draft, and Belichick paid $35 million a year. I was feeling quite reactionary, as I said. And I'm fine with the Eagles keeping Sirianni, getting rid of the coordinators, revamping this coaching staff outside of the head coach. I think that's an okay move. Dallas not firing Mike McCarthy is laughable. And I'm an Eagles fan. So I love it. Keep Mike McCarthy for 20 years if you want him. If you like winning 11 games and losing in the first round of the playoffs, which is something that Dallas has done my entire life, please keep Mike McCarthy. They could have kept Jason Garrett. They could have kept anyone that they've had in the last 25 years, and I'd be fine with it. But I think Mike McCarthy is such a bad coach. I never thought he was a good coach. When he was with Green Bay, I was like, this guy stinks. And then people say, well, he won a Super Bowl. He had Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers should have won 3 Super Bowls with Green Bay. I think Mike McCarthy is the reason he only won 1. Oh, I also said that Matt Patricia should be sent alone to the moon with no way back. That was another take I had after the Eagles game. But anyway, you're an unserious organization if Mike McCarthy is your head coach, in my opinion. In my opinion. The Dallas Cowboys are not a serious organization by keeping McCarthy around. And I love that. I pray for times like this where the Cowboys will just continue to be incompetent in the playoffs. It brings me much joy. It was a very bittersweet weekend for me. Because, yes, the Eagles lost in embarrassing fashion to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the Cowboys got embarrassed as well by Jordan Love. And it's just beautiful. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. So there's the NFL talk for this week. I like the Bills. I like the Lions. I'll just say it. I like the Packers against the 49ers this week. And I kind of like the Texans. I do. Maybe not to win, but they're going to be games. I liked what I saw a lot out of Jordan Love last week. I thought he was great in that game. Same with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud already taking the place of Justin Fields as maybe the best Ohio State quarterback ever. It's been 1 year. Goes to show you how good Ohio State quarterbacks have been. Speaking of Ohio State quarterbacks, something I forgot to mention earlier, we've got another addition to the Syracuse football team. Like what I did there, we've got an Ohio State quarterback at Syracuse now, Kyle McCord. Boom. You got another addition to the Syracuse football team, Fran Brown, continuing his dominance on the recruiting front. And it's unlike anything I've ever seen, really, because we've never had anyone like this that we've seen. And here at Syracuse that can just seemingly get anyone to commit to Syracuse. 4 stars all over the place, transfers from Alabama, transfers from, Georgia. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful what's going on with the Syracuse football program right now. So keep it up, Fran Brown. Like I said before, I've said it multiple times. We'll see if he can coach. But right now, I don't care. Just bring me all of the transfers and 4-star and 3-star recruits that you can. Maybe mix in a 5-star. Why not? Why not mix in a 5-star recruit for the Syracuse football team? It's been a lot of fun. We're going to keep up with that the entirety of the football offseason now. And they're working out together now as well. It was January 15th was his first day, with the guys at Syracuse's practice facilities. So guys seem to love him. Things are going to be good for Syracuse football, despite the fact they were projected to finish 11th in the ACC next year, which blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. But I think they'll be a top 6 team in the ACC, minimum. That's just me, based on the schedule. I don't see them losing too many games next year. So we'll see. But little Syracuse football talk, before we take another time out here on Outside the Box Score. Phone lines open, 315-671-1260. Call during the breaks. Get you on the line afterwards and talk about whatever it is you might want to talk about here on the Score 1260. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of Central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
The American Red Cross is facing an emergency blood shortage as the nation's blood supply has dropped to critically low levels. Blood and platelet donations are needed now for people counting on life-saving care after accidents, surgeries, and those facing critical treatments for cancer and sickle cell disease. You can take action today. Make an appointment to give blood. To book a time, use the Red Cross Blood Donor app. Visit redcrossblood.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to schedule your appointment.
Welch & Company Jewelers has been designing engagement rings in the North Syracuse for the last 25 years. We have a CAD design center and design team waiting to help you create the perfect ring, natural or lab created, simple or one of a kind. Perhaps you have family diamonds that have been handed down and would like to create a family heirloom. Welch & Company Jewelers is standing by and ready to work with you. Contact our design team.
Did you ever think you would see an SU football offseason overshadow basketball? No, not at all. Not at all. I never thought we would see this. It's kind of unbelievable what we've seen. Yeah, I agree. Boeheim would probably be pissed. And I think we've got an interesting basketball team. That's the thing. If the basketball team was boring and bad, you'd be like, okay, yeah. But even with a kind of good, at least decent basketball team that's interesting, football is the talk of the town. I've never seen it before. And I don't know if we'll ever see it again. Outside of Fran Brown. Outside the box score, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll throw you on hold, John. And we're back outside the box score. With me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. We're going to hop over to the phone lines. We've got John from Liverpool calling in. John, how are we doing today?
Good, Mark. Well, that's a good break that their center is not going to be available for this game.
It's massive.
So that's yes, that is definitely a quick comment. I like this team, but I sure wish that Jesse Edwards stuck around. I think it'd be a top 10 team had he stuck around. And oddly enough, it hasn't gone well for him in West Virginia. He broke his wrist, and West Virginia's already got like 10 losses. But I wish he had stayed. But on football, I got to mention college football.
Sure.
I talked to my brother. I have a brother out in Tucson. I mentioned that we're getting all this talented players from the transfer portal, and the first thing he said to me was, "How much is that going to cost?" So it's just an interesting. It's an interesting comment on where the game is right now. I told myself I have no idea what it's going to cost, but that's the way the game is these days. So, it's not coming out of my pocket. So, and I love it. I think it's great. Get all the talent you can, but I have no idea what it's going to cost them to bring these players in. Any idea?
It will, in terms of actual hard numbers, no, I don't have any idea. It's hard we haven't heard any official NIL deals yet. I mean, they'll start coming in once these guys actually get on campus and start working out deals. I know King Joseph Edwards is going to be a superstar on local television. Let me tell you that. He'll be doing as many local commercials as he can. But I don't know any hard numbers on what it's going to cost, no, but I do know that the NIL initiatives put out by SU and put out by fans have been doing very well, garnering thousands of dollars from fans just to make sure that these guys get proper compensation. And I've always been pro paying the players. It's when these guys are on ESPN every single week playing nationally televised games in front of millions of viewers, I always thought it was absurd that they were getting zero compensation. And you can say, well, they're getting their education for free. Yeah, that's great. Obviously, fantastic that they don't have to pay to go to school at Syracuse University. But with the dollars that ESPN generates from college sports, this goes for basketball, football, baseball, every college sport, with just the dollars generated, I always thought it was ridiculous that players couldn't get any sort of compensation. So I'm glad they are now. It is going to cost a lot of people a lot of money for all of these talented players to come to Syracuse. But like you said, it's not coming out of my pocket. It's one of my favorite things to say about like contracts and sports. And we talk about, Shohei Ohtani getting $700 million and they're going to pay him $68 million for 10 years in deferred money. It's not your money, is it? Because it's not my money.
Yeah. One last quick comment. Have they published the final results of where Syracuse finished in the recruiting? Usually it's at the bottom of the ACC or one or two steps above the bottom. Have they published those results yet?
In terms of transfer portal and recruiting?
Yeah, I guess you could lump them all together. I heard transfer portal were in the top 10. I guess maybe they separate those now.
Yeah,
but
so the recent, I believe it was on 3 Sports, one of the publications recently put out their current rankings for transfer portal, and we were number 2. So
that's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. In terms of total recruiting, last I saw, we were in the top 40 somewhere.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Yep, no problem, John. Have a safe weekend, all right? There he is, John from Liverpool, calling in, talking some SU sports. And yeah, like I'm in Jim in chat says schools paying players is a slippery slope. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that the schools themselves should be paying players. But and you say non-revenue sports, softball gets televised on ESPN. But every sport gets nationally televised here and there. That's where I think a lot of the money should come from. is the revenue generated from television, not by the college, but generated by these, networks that televise. I think there's a lot of money there that for a long time was inaccessible for players in a variety of different sports. And I think it's great that players are getting any sort of compensation now. I'm not saying we have to pay these guys millions and millions of dollars. I think some of those, some of the NIL deals are insane. And there was legitimate talk of, like, Marvin Harrison Jr., like, could he make just as much money playing at Ohio State as he could playing in being a top 5 pick in the NFL draft? That's insane. Not saying in necessarily a bad way. Like I said, it's not my money. I don't think it's your money either. But it's not my money. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's just some of the numbers are getting very high. Very high. But it can be a slippery slope, that's for sure. It's just cool to see that this is actually a thing that could happen. We've got a new NCAA football game coming out at some point. We're getting like rumors of when they're going to release the release date. And we know next to nothing about it still. But EA Sports is making a new NCAA football game. How cool would it be to actually be able to play as Syracuse? And you've got Kyle McCord throwing to a Rondé Gadsden in a video game, not Syracuse quarterback number 14. Like, it would be a lot of fun. And I played the NCAA games growing up. I played NCAA football. I played NCAA basketball. I still have NCAA basketball 2004 for the original Xbox with one Carmelo Anthony on the cover. I played that game as recently as last year. So they're very popular games, and it would be very cool. And keep in mind, like I said, Carmelo Anthony on the cover of that game, donning a Syracuse uniform. Nothing. Couldn't see 1 red cent of the money that game made. And I always thought that was wrong. For a guy to be on the cover of a video game and not see a dime from EA Sports for the millions of people that bought those games. Just something to think about. We're going to take a timeout. More to talk about here on Outside the Box Score. Phone lines open the entire show. If you want to be like John from Liverpool, call in, talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. Go ahead, 315-671-1260, 315-671-1260. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score on the Score 1260. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
At Mattress Express, get a queen and a set of sheets for $14.99. Qualified buyers get no money down and up to 60 months to pay. A flex set bed is where each.
Oh yeah, Caitlin Clark, should absolutely stay in school another year. She will make more money. And I'm just selfish, and I want to continue watching her play college basketball because she's absurd. I know she'll be great in the WNBA, but there's something about what she does in college that it's just absurd.
Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at progressive.com.
Paige Buchers does she have like 5 years of eligibility left because of injury? And she's unbelievable, but she never plays anymore. She should have like 6 medical red shirts. Yeah, UConn is down, sort of down in the mouth in terms of their women's basketball program right now. It's just okay. And that's like saying they're terrible. UConn women's basketball being just okay is essentially the same as Syracuse winning like 4 games in basketball. Syracuse winning 4 games in football is all too real.
Think you can help? Give today at foodbankcny.org.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Want to go back to the conversation I was just having with John a little bit, talk some SU basketball. You mentioned Jesse Edwards out of West Virginia. It's a shame that he broke his wrist because I was rooting for Jesse. I love Jesse, loved watching him here. Had one of the great, center seasons last season that SU has had in quite a while. And I was rooting for him at West Virginia. I know it was a money thing, the reason he went. It makes sense. But he brought up an interesting point that what would this team look like with Jesse Edwards down low? Now, Malik Brown has been great. I love watching Malik Brown play. He might be my favorite, like, under the radar guy on this team. There's always one. SU always has one guy where he's not the star, but you watch him and you're like, that's my guy. For years, it was Marek Dolezaj. I call this the Marek Dolezaj Award for the guy that isn't the star of the team by any means, but God, you love to watch him play. He hustles, he rebounds, he does everything well. That's Malik Brown this year. He wins the Marek Dolezaj Award. So he's been great. And Naheem McLeod is very tall. Very tall. He's 7'4". He was very tall. And obviously he's out for the year. So, I believe it was a foot injury for McLeod. And you've got, like, Peter Carey, tall. William Patterson, who's redshirting and not going to play this year. Very tall. Very tall. A lot of tall guys on this team. But not a lot of really good big guys. We've got Brown, but he's undersized. And not undersized. He plays bigger, but he's not as tall as a guy like Edwards or McLeod. Jesse Edwards, a healthy Jesse Edwards on this team. I mean, we're talking about. What's the ceiling of this team? Because you have a defensive presence like that down low who also crashes the boards and last year really greatly improved his offensive game. What does that do against a Tennessee, a Gonzaga, a Duke, a North Carolina? I named 4 of Virginia. All of SU's 5 losses. I think Jesse Edwards could easily have made a difference in those games. We got killed down low in those games. It'd be fun to talk about. I think we'd be talking about the Syracuse team maybe being 15-2 instead of 12-5. Or this men's team, I should say, where the women's team, who I want to talk about right now, before we get into a full-on SU men's basketball discussion, I have to bring up the women's team. And we will talk more about SU basketball's game today against Miami. But before we get in, this women's team is doing unbelievable things. Felicia Leggett-Jack. Bravo. Bravo to what she has done with this team. 15-2. Just took down number 15 ranked Florida State. 79-73 at home. And it was their second top 25 win of the season. They trailed by 18 points to the 15th ranked team in the country and won by 6. SU is doing things that we haven't seen. And Daisha Fair is unbelievable. She had 31 points in this game. She had 9 3-pointers. 9. She's in the 3,000-point club. We are actively watching, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the best scorers in women's basketball history playing for Syracuse right now. Not enough people are talking about him. This is the team that should be the talk of the town. Jim, said in the chat, when was the last, did you ever expect to see football outshining men's basketball at this point in the season for Syracuse? And I said no. But in football, it's great that they're the talk of the town. This should be the talk of the town. Syracuse women's basketball is really good. Not just, they're fun, they're scrappy, they're going to, they'll make the tournament. They're not just going to make the tournament. This is a team that is primed to make a run in the tournament. The defense at times is a little suspect, but this offense, led by Daisha Fair, is up there with some of the best offenses in the country. She made 9 3-pointers. Back-to-back wins of massive comebacks. They had 19 points that they trailed by against Clemson. They win that game by 1. Then this one, it's 18. Go to the JMA Wireless Dome. Watch the women's basketball team. When they're on TV, make sure to tune in. They're not on TV enough. But when they are, make sure to tune in. Support this team as much as you would support the men's team. Because this is the team that has a chance to make a run. There's my public service announcement for the week. Watch women's basketball. I get on my soapbox, and I will in about a month, as I normally do, about college baseball. And I tell people, watch college baseball, especially because now, once again, we have a Division I program here in Syracuse. Support LeMoyne baseball. But I always get on that soapbox. Now I'm doing it for women's basketball. Watch Syracuse women's basketball. They're a lot of fun. Make sure to fill the JMA Wireless Dome as much as we can for this team because they rely on our support. And they deserve it. They deserve the full support of this city for what they're doing right now. Back to men's basketball. Jim says the weekly question. And Jim also mentioned South Carolina women. Yeah, watch Iowa, watch South Carolina, watch these great women's basketball teams, and you will understand that it is great basketball. I called SUNY Oswego women's basketball games when I was in college. That's Division III women's college basketball. And after one game, I was like, I need to give women's basketball another chance. Because, I would occasionally watch Syracuse, 5 years prior, or occasionally watch the WNBA. Once I started working and calling women's college basketball games, that's what made me appreciate it. It is a really good product. WNBA is great, and the top level of women's college basketball, or college women's basketball, is, it's a great product, and everyone should watch it, specifically Syracuse, but also watch the Iowas for Caitlin Clark and South Carolina. Watch them. Anyway, back to men's basketball for a second. We've got a big game today against Miami. Like I said earlier, Miami's starting center out. Syracuse has a chance now to maybe get some rebounds. Jim asked the weekly question. He always asks it. Today, rebounds in the Syracuse game. Mark Rowlands or Chris Bell. I'm at plus 1.5. Who's going to have more? Essentially, will Chris Bell grab 2 rebounds? We'll see. I like to think yes, with the situation of Miami being without their starting center. Line's already moved to 3. Might have moved even more by now. That was 45 minutes ago that the line moved from 1 to 3. Could be 4 or 5 by now. Who knows? This is a very winnable game for Syracuse. Miami comes into the JMA Wireless Dome with the same record as the Syracuse Orange. They're 12-5, 3-3 in conference, just like Syracuse. Miami has had a similar season to Syracuse. Their losses came at the hands of Kentucky, Colorado, Wake Forest, Louisville, and Florida State. So actually, they have worse losses than Syracuse. They lost to Louisville. SU is -4 now. Thank you, Jim. This is a team that lost to Louisville. Louisville is a dumpster fire of a team right now. That program is in shambles. They lost to Louisville. That's my guarantee that SU should win this game, is that Miami lost to Louisville. If SU loses to Louisville this year, I'll declare the season over. Because when do we play Louisville? February 7th, March 2nd. Oh, I don't like having Louisville that late in the season. That's prime spoiler Cardinal time. But this is a very winnable game for Syracuse. Syracuse, 4-point favorite of the JMA Wireless Dome. I expect Syracuse to win this game. I expect Syracuse to cover because they looked so solid all around against Pitt the other night. Outside of the rebounding, we got out-rebounded once again and somehow won the game. Usually you get out-rebounded by Pitt, you're dead, at least for Syracuse. Got out-rebounded, still won by 11. The defense looked good. The offense looked good. It was an all-around solid performance by the Syracuse Orange. And I expect them to keep that up against Miami without their starting center today. If, injuries, we can always play that game, but it's like, oh, what if he played? Maybe things might be different, but we don't have to deal in hypotheticals because he's not playing. So we can go ahead and get a nice win at home, something that Syracuse has only done at home. We haven't lost at home yet. The JMA Wireless Dome has not seen a loss this year by the Syracuse basketball team. We can keep that up. Take down the Hurricanes today. It's always a tough opponent. Miami's got a good program down there. Take down Miami today. And SU's cooking. 13-5, above 500 in conference. Right now, just the middle of the pack. The ACC is an interesting conference this year. Maybe SU can move into that top third. Even Virginia's 12-5, and they're 3-3 in conference. Some of the Titans we've seen in recent years, like Virginia. Miami's been really good. Clemson. They're on their way down, and just maybe Syracuse is on their way up. One more time, I'll come back, wrap things up here on Outside the Box Score. With me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260.
If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
For a limited time at Mattress Express.
Yeah, Jim, I did see the one from South Carolina dunk. I thought that was great. Love a women's college basketball dunk. Absolutely love it. Yeah, it is not a great upcoming schedule for Syracuse. I mean, Wake Forest is good. They're 4-2 in conference, 12-5 total. That might end up being like a, that could be a quad one win. We'll go through it. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, wrapping up another fun-filled hour here on the Score 1260. Quickly, just a look ahead in SU's schedule. Jim brought up a great point. Like, what's the marquee win that Syracuse can get moving forward? I mean, North Carolina, obviously. Got North Carolina at the Dome on February 13th. That's a 7 o'clock game. So that's the biggest one. At Wake Forest has a chance to be a quad 1 win. Wake Forest right now 4-2 in conference, 12-5 overall, similar to Syracuse, but they win a few games. That becomes a quad 1 win. At Wake Forest, that would be big. We've got, there are some wins that have been jumping between quad 1 and 2. Oregon, just keep rooting for Oregon for that to be a quad 1 win. I hate to say root for Pitt moving forward because we beat them both at home and on the road. So beating Pitt on the road, that's big. So root for them to get better. The rest of the games, yeah, there aren't a ton of quad 1 or like real big quad 1 opportunities moving forward for Syracuse, but control what you can control, win as many games as humanly possible. Maybe we'll end up seeing this team play in March, especially if they go on a run in the ACC tournament, which could happen. You never know. You never know when a team's going to go on it. We saw a bad Georgetown team win the Big East, which is a better basketball conference than the ACC. Oh, also NC State could be a big one. We do have NC State twice still, here and there. And NC State right now is 5-1 in conference. So is Florida State. So there you go. Do they jump off the page? No. But it's a good win is a good win. Do want to bring up, go through some of the standings in high school basketball. This is high school boys basketball. Reigning state champion West Hill, shocking. Oh no, they're in first still in the Liberty 2 of the OHSL, leading Chittenango. West Hill 11-2, 5-0 in conference. The retirement of Coach King seemingly not affecting this team whatsoever. They lead their division. Bishop Ludden just trailing Syracuse Academy of Science in the Liberty 1 division. CBA, we found a sport that CBA isn't great at. They're not great at boys basketball. They're 4-10, 0-2, reigning state champions in football. We finally found a sport that CBA struggles with. They are, like I said, 4-10, 0-2 in their division. We did it. We finally found the one sport that CBA is just okay at. Go to the CCAC or SCAC standings, SCAC, SCAC, whatever you want to call it. Fulton leading the Empire Division. They're 9-3 overall, 5-0 in conference. JD 10-2, 4-0 in conference. East Syracuse Manoa 7-5, 4-0 in conference. My Corcoran Cougars in the Metro Division, not great. They're 4-9, 0-4 in their division. Nottingham, though, leading the way, 10-5, 5-1 in the division, just ahead of West Genesee and CNS. CNS only one loss, but it did come in the division. They're 3-1 in their division, but 13-1 overall. So it looks like CNS on their way to winning that one by year's end. Great point, Jim. I meant to bring this up earlier. D3 hoop rankings. Yes, we're going back to talking D3 basketball because D3 Hoops released their national rankings recently. And look who's at number 6, the Oswego State Lakers. I'm going to shout this from the rooftops as long as Coach Jason Leone is at Oswego. Oswego is a basketball school. Once again, in the top 10 of the national rankings. Bravo. I will have Jason Leone on the show again this year, probably around the time of the SUNYAC tournament, which I fully expect Oswego to win. I fully expect Oswego to once again host NCAA tournament games in the Max Zeal Gymnasium, and I fully expect to be in attendance for at least one of them. I love going to Oswego basketball games. If you want to watch a really fundamentally sound, fun college basketball team, why not make the trip 45 minutes north? Check out the Max Zeal Gymnasium. Check out what Jason Leone has done, and check out maybe the best men's basketball team in upstate New York. That's maybe. They're ranked number 6. Syracuse hasn't sniffed the top 25 yet. So that's all I'm going to say. maybe they are the superior team. I'd like to see the Lakers take on the Orange. I think it would be a fun matchup, personally. But that's going to wrap things up. Thank you to everyone for listening out there. Thank you to Jim Jim in the chat, John from Liverpool calling in. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, 11 a.m., right here on the Score 1260. See you then. Peace.